Hello, hello. My name is Mayor Watt. I'm the mayor of ohmTown. That's that site right there, and the community that I'm trying to start up here on Twitch, as well as over on YouTube, because Twitch only allows me 14 days of VOD retention. There's also a podcast. If you do a search on Apple or Google or on Spotify for ohmTown, you'll find me. There are close to 115 episodes. I think we're at 117, but not everything is in the podcast. Um, yeah, I'm fixing the back catalog, so but everything is over at YouTube. Go over there, follow me there, please. Subscribe to me over on Apple Podcasts or wherever you want. And be sure to follow me here on Twitch. This is where I really like to be. So I really won't be doing much on YouTube unless you're over there and you make comments or you follow. If the audience picks up over at YouTube, then awesome. But it's really me wanting to be here. I don't even want the podcast, really. I mean, the podcast and the YouTube stuff, it's basically for people who can't make it to the stream, but I love the stream because I love the interaction. So please come on over to Twitch, twitch.tv/ohmtown. Pretty simple. And you can interact in real time with me and others. Because of the topic, it's news and kind of a general news. I've only been doing this for 4 months, coming up on completing 4 months. There's not too much engagement, and I haven't gone viral other than maybe having a cold. So come on over, hang out. That would be great. Love to see you all there. But let's get into the news. I'm actually watching the Depp Heard trial, and I find some of this to be humorous and sad at the same time, mainly because it's all out there. And I think that it being a public trial pulls back the veil so people see how trials like this take place. I think it's important for people to be aware of this. They may never in a million years run up against something like this, but it scales, right? So this is a really high profile case. Reputations are on the line. Even the people who once thought negatively of Depp are positively thinking of him now, because it seems like Heard is kind of not representing everything as the truth. And I've always said that context matters, and there's a scale between one side and the other, and somewhere on there on that spectrum is the truth. And there is only one truth. There's a lot of perception of the truth, but there really is only one truth. What it really is the entirety of what went down and what continues to go down. And some of the things that I've read and watched are pretty despicable. Mainly external parties to this, friends on Heard's side, doing things that kind of throw me for a loop. I just, standing by a friend is one thing, but doing things that are, to me, ethically questionable, morally questionable, are a whole other thing. It's weird, and I tend to say that a lot because that phrase is kind of a coping mechanism for me. So at any rate, that is continuing on. I think it's day 10. Yeah, so it's day 10. At any rate, let's get into today's news. That's why we're here. The first article is over in the Word in Tech. I'm using my old browser, not Brave, because I don't like the way that it tabs. Primarily, that is the only reason why I'm not using Brave. I like trying out browsers, so at any rate, so this says bossware is coming for almost every worker, the software you might not realize is watching you. This takes place, by the way, in various enterprise is. So you are being monitored. Where you browse to, how long you're there, what you do all day. For instance, Office 365 actually monitors all of your interactions and can give you a report, or it can do the report but not send it to you. And it allows the administration of your enterprise to kind of monitor you, keep tabs. I've got a setting that allows me to monitor who utilizes machines in my local network because I'm the administrator of the account. And so I can have reports sent to me. I don't do it, but it is available. And the bigger the enterprise, the more profound that data is. So bossware is coming for almost every worker. It's more like it is always there. And even timekeeping is one of those things. It's supposed to be a matter of if you are employed and you're working and you produce some output, then that should be your metric, but that's not really how it is. So the hours you work are what you get paid for, even if you're more efficient. If you do 60 hours worth of work in 35 hours, you don't necessarily get paid a bonus. It's almost expected of you to just work your butt off. But you don't necessarily get greater pay. You might get a pat on the back, but. So let's click this link. This is in The Guardian, and the article is written by Zoe Corbin. It says, when the job of a young East Coast-based analyst, we'll call him James, went remote with the pandemic, he didn't envisage any problems. The company, a large U.S. retailer, for which he had been salaried employee for more than half of a decade, which is really just 5 years, folks. So, I mean, that's kind of the embiggening phrase for working for somebody. I've only worked for somebody for 5 years versus I've almost worked for a decade. Well, half of a decade is 5 years. So, providing him with a laptop and his home became his new office, part of a team dealing with supply chain issues. The job was a busy one, but never had he been reprimanded for not working hard enough. So it was a shock when his team was hauled in one day last year to an online meeting to be told there were gaps in its work, specifically periods when people, including James himself, he was later informed, weren't inputting information into the company's database. Yeah. So kind of like commercials in recorded television. You used to be able to fast forward through them, but those times are going to disappear as streaming platforms become VOD, video on demand only, and or even the recordings are still video on demand, and so they can inject advertisements. At one point, the streaming service that I subscribe to, which has changed shape multiple times now, in the 7 years that I've been using that particular streaming service, they used to actually stop the stream, inject an ad, and then start the stream back up, except that it was lagged on both ends, and so I would lose segments of the show. Subsequently, that's changed on the back end of things, but at any rate, my point is, the more that we move online, the more sophisticated the tools are becoming. And in doing so, we are losing privacy. We are losing control. We, as human beings, are losing our identity either to the corporation controlling what we do, when we do, how we do it. So much so to invade our personal life. Even during a pandemic where we're not supposed to be going into work, now they are kind of in there all the time. And you can't get away. Salaried or not, there's a work-life balance that everybody deserves. And that's why I think one of the many reasons why I think unionization and resignation and people moving on, going so far as to give the bird to employers, simply because it comes across as abusive. Well, it says they ask a question: can a company really use computer monitoring tools known as bossware to critics to tell if you're being productive at work? And depending on where you are, yes, they can. You are subsequently using the assets of the corporation. For instance, if my employers were to tell me, hey, you got to install this software that allows us to monitor your personal equipment, I would not allow it. I'd say, give me a laptop and I'll plug into my network, and I'll break my network off a piece so that it is isolated from my personal space. But suffice it to say, I'm fast, effective, and efficient with my time, and I can do many more hours of work because I have the tools, technique, knowledge, skills, abilities to be an effective employee. But like all things, greater margins, greater profits, or even perceptions of control or lack of control over a human being leads to things like bossware. That said, sometimes there are people that are bad apples that spoil the bunch. That's the whole phrase, one bad apple. That's where a lot of people leave that phrase, but the context again matters quite a bit. A bad apple spoils the bunch. Let's not dismiss the rest of that phrase. It isn't just one bad apple. It's one bad apple spoils the bunch. That's the whole phrase. That means that while there might be 10 people, or out of 10 people, there are 9 that are doing their job, one is abusing it, and because they want to control that one, they blanket across everybody so that you don't get the phrase disparate treatment, and it becomes an equal employment opportunity thing, an EEOC problem in HR. So they basically crap on everybody. So go over to this article over at The Guardian, written by Zoe Corbin, and it goes into greater detail and gives some stats, like a survey last September by ReviewSiteDigital.com of 1,250 U.S. employees found that 60% with remote employees are using work monitoring software of some type, most commonly to track web browsing and application use. Well, if you're using their equipment, then there are things like device management software that's monitoring you, and things like Office 365 is tracking everything that you're doing because it's all a holistic software as a service, and you'll get reports depending on who the administrator is and their wisdom about the tools. I think it's kind of weird. Again, that's a phrase of mine that is a coping mechanism, so just take it in stride. The next article is over in the Dictioneer channel, which is about word creation, word use, typically for products and services and businesses. I help people sometimes create new products and services and name them. And I want to talk about that kind of stuff. So Dictioneer is a service that my business provides. And but I haven't done that for a little while. In my current position, it makes it difficult. But let's keep on going. The phrase is wet behind the ears. It says, am I right? The question in the article's snippet is, am I right in assuming that the expression wet behind the ears refers to a newborn baby still wet with amniotic fluid? And the answer is yes, the expression is believed to be an allusion to a wet newborn, but it first appeared in English as a negative version, not yet dry behind the ears. But we like to be pithy with our phrasing, so we tend to change it to get to that pithy level. 1 second. Okay, so we'll click that link and it'll take us over to Grammarphobia. It's one of the organizations that I aggregate news from, and you should go over there. They provide quite a bit of information, but it's in kind of fits and starts. So my aggregator has this. And they go into great detail as to the etymology of the word or phrase. So definitely check it out. It's kind of a pillar of my research in word, phrase, usage, etymology, and more, really, the history of more than just the word or phrase, because there is world history there. Let's continue on. The next article is in Prime Glass, which is all about photography. And it's the ultimate guide to stellar smartphone photography. And I'm just going to click the link to take us over there. This is over at 500pix.com. There is a time where I've stopped aggregating the site. I'm going to be doing that with a couple of other services because they've been acting weird in my engine. Just so you know, there might be a slowdown in some of the news in some of the categories. Probably just one category, one show, one channel. So this article, it says smartphone cameras have evolved by leaps and bounds, and they continue to improve every year, encouraging more people to learn photography and inspiring established pros to think outside the box. When used well, a mobile device can give a professional camera a run for its money. Yep, I agree. And my phrase is the best camera you can buy, or I should say the best camera you can have is the one in your hand. So if you've got any camera, that is the best that you can have, because you'll miss a shot, and nobody is walking around all the time with a DSLR. But we are walking around with our phones. So get a quality phone with a good camera if you plan on being a photographer, because that is the shot that you're going to get. Nobody ever has their camera ready. You know, the picture that I am showing right now on the screen, on the stream, is a posed shot. So even with a DSLR, you had to pose this. It's not just a candid photograph. Even this might be a posed shot. But you know, I can't really tell based on that. Anyway, smartphone photography. And let's see here. This the article kind of muddies what they are ultimately talking about. But you should go over to 500pix and check it out. They always have really good photography, and they're talking about how to make your photography better. I don't like going through the entire article here on the stream, but I definitely want to motivate you to go over and check out 500pix.com. The next article is over in Smack Talk, because this is kind of a change in direction. Apple launches self-repair program for iPhones. Apple's promised self-repair program is now available with a dedicated store for ordering iPhone replacement parts. First announced in November of 2021. So they moved pretty fast to try and get this operational. One of the problems that I've always had with this is, yeah, sure. They've always kind of been hard-nosed about self-repair. But the problem is you need somebody skilled in the art of the repair. If something catastrophic happens because you derped a repair and it burns down your house, the first target is going to be the phone's manufacturer. And then various things have to be disclosed truthfully. And I know that everybody's just kind of come out of the woodwork and say, yeah, I burned down my house because I was repairing my iPhone and I did it incorrectly. Well, no, it's going to have to take a forensic analysis and then a whole bunch of legal back and forth, because somebody's going to say, well, no, it wasn't my repair. And then their subject matter experts are going to have to come in and say, yes, it was your repair, and so on and so forth. So I can understand Apple's reluctance to want people tooling around inside the devices that people purchase. And arguably, it's your device, yes, but you're using somebody else's manufactured product, wherein liability lies with them if the accusation is levied, it impacts their stock price. It impacts the performance of people in their duties on a daily basis. It provokes a legal interaction. There's a whole lot more context, again, to why somebody would want to limit a self-repair. Now, not again, back to that phrase about one bad apple spoils the bunch. It isn't necessarily that everybody's going to mess up, but the prospect of somebody messing up a self-repair, to me, is one of the motivators to why Apple wants to keep people out of the device. Yes, you purchased the device, but you're still using their network, either AT&T's or their services. There's a lot of stuff to anticipate when you are running a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and a lot of it goes to liability. So got to keep it in mind. That said, maybe if the device wasn't so darn hard to repair, make things more modular, yeah, you'll end up with a bigger, thicker phone, not as sexy and not as small. So count your blessings, and now let's hope that nobody burns down their house because they mess up a self-repair. So this article is over at appleinsider.com, written by William Gallagher. And let's see, in the future, the program will be expanded to include self-repair parts for the Mac, but for now, it's exclusively for the iPhone. It's not for every iPhone, though, and not even the iPhone 11, which still sells as new. So it can be ordered. Parts that can be ordered through the new store is iPhone 12 on up, not 11 and down, which, again, that seems like an odd thing because the older phones are the ones that need to be repaired. They're the ones that are aging. The newer ones are usually under warranty. So why is it only the new ones? Hopefully it expands. The next article is in Mobile. And there you go. This is a joint research paper. Oh, this is the title of it, and the little snapshot of the article is the use of magnetic nanoparticles for cancer therapy. This is in the Mobile channel. A joint research paper from Chemnitz University, I think that's how it's pronounced, of Technology, and Shivaji University in India, titled APTES, APTES, Monolayer Coverage on Self-Assembled Magnetic Nanospheres for Controlled Release of Anti-Cancer Drug Nintedanib. Okay. This is an article that's over at phys.org. It's written by the Chemnitz University of Technology. And it says the authors of the paper include, I think it says APL, but that might be applied, Professor Dr. Georgetta Salvin and Dr. Apurva Sharma from the Professorship Semiconductor Physics. And they've got several other names. The article deals with the synthesis of magnetic drug carriers for cancer therapy. The team investigated whether self-assembled magnetic nanoparticles can improve the effect of the anti-cancer drug Nintedanib. Wow, I am hard-pressed to pronounce that. In doing so, the researchers showed during in vitro cytotoxicity studies, i.e. studies on cancer cells in the lab, that there is a dose-dependent activity of the functionalized nanoparticles for human lung cancer cells at a concentration of 100 micrograms per milliliter of the nanoparticle solution. A reduction in the cellular viability of the cancer cells by about 75% was observed. Well, that's awesome. And this, if it can be translated into the human, would change the impact of cancer treatments. Because right now it's pretty much an all or nothing kind of process. You're bombarded with chemicals or you're bombarded with radiation. It's somewhat more focused depending on the type of cancer. For instance, breast cancer can be, the impact can be reduced with radiation therapy because the beams are tighter focused and can be angled through the body in a very specific way, minimizing impact on the human as a whole, but you still get irradiated. And then there, of course, chemo is always, you're all in. It just bombards your body, and you come out immunocompromised for a considerable amount of time, and you are anyway because of your cancer diagnosis to begin with. So anything that moves the needle in treating cancer is good, and it's such a personal diagnosis because your cancer isn't the same as other people's cancer. It is very specifically attuned to your genetics, and all around cancer sucks. So let's go on to the next article. I wish that I could spend more time on articles, but I have 20 of them that I like to get out to you each time and motivate you to go over and read the articles. The next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. It's related to business. The Fed will plunge the U.S. into major recession by hiking rates above 5%, says Deutsche Bank. The Fed will trigger a major U.S. recession before the end of 2023 by hiking rates above 5%, Deutsche Bank has predicted. Many analysts expect the Fed to raise rates to around 3% in 2023 without causing a major growth slowdown, but Deutsche Bank has warned clients that a recession is necessary to cool down red-hot inflation. Well, hate to break it to you, bubs, but it's business that is causing the inflation. There were bailouts after bailouts of corporations, but not to consumers. Now there's a massive amount of money floating around, and to rein it in, you have to increase the interest rate. So the problem is that with every rate of that increases, the businesses raise theirs. They don't lower their margins. That would be absurd. That would be socialist. We can't have that. What are you? No, you have to increase prices and you have to increase everything else. And you're not increasing salary. No. You can't have that. The C-suite, yes. Investors, yes. Major stakeholders, yes. Stocks, yes. But the average Joe can't get a raise to offset inflation. Why? Because then there's so much money that we have to raise the rates again. And it becomes a downward spiral, or I should say upward spiral. And the only ones that are going to benefit are corporations and the stakeholders, the C-suite, the people in the upper echelons of corporations. And there's a whole lot more context here, folks. But if you want to avoid a recession, then it's going to take paying people, and that cycle goes into taxes. It goes into providing services. Government spending gets 8 times the amount of return on investment versus corporations that privatize it into individuals at the upper echelons, because everybody outside of the upper echelons are just paying their freaking bills. Plain and simple. And money begets money when you demand 3, 9, 12% return on your investment, or multipliers, depending on if you're an angel investor, like what happened with Amazon. It was an initial $300,000 investment by upper class 1% investors. So you end up demanding more profits, and then that begets more money, but not necessarily value. What good has come of the billions? Well, we can get into more discussion, but right now I'm just doing the podcast. Come and talk to me here on Twitch. I want you to come and talk to me. This article was over at Business Insider, and it's written by Harry Robertson. And it's basically reporting what Deutsche Bank is talking about and what the Fed will do. And you can go and read more about it. It says the Fed raised interest rates for the first time since 2018 in March as it grapples with the strongest inflation in 40 years. It's an odd time to suddenly start raising interest rates. Very interesting. And it's not the current president's fault that prices are going up for fuel. It's the simple fact that businesses are profiteering off of the delayed profits of 2.5 years of pandemic, where everything slowed down. So now they're ratcheting up the price of fuel, and that is leading to a fundamental increase in costs across the board. The next article is over in the Order of the Grape, 6 Bavarian beer gardens worth visiting this summer if you can afford the gas. A cool breeze coursing through the canopy of green leaves overhead, the crunch of gravel underfoot as you seek out a table in the shade, and a frothy mug of beer in hand. Nothing bespeaks summer. Wow, that's interesting. In Bavaria more than the beer garden. Let's click this link. This is over at vinepair.com. And it's written by Franz D. Hofer. There's an illustration of your standard German beer mug. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I dug Oktoberfest when I could go. Anyway, Ariella Basson is the artist who created this. Pretty much, I'd say this could be an iconic image. It's pretty much synonymous with beer garden. And so they talk about it on the site, the various beer gardens. This is a Chinese tower in Munich. Fascinare is in Munich. Wochinger Brauhaus in Trustein, which is basically it's a beer garden. So what you'll see probably is that these are really small. Alte Linde and Regensburg. These are all beer gardens that these people believe are something that you should go and check out. But you're going to have to go there. So you could probably get a really good deal flying right now. Wild Rose Keller in Bamberg. Klostra Andex and Andex. And it says, pro tip, purchase a day pass for Munich's public transit network, MVV, which includes buses, trams, subways, S-Bahn trains that get you out into the countryside. Larger cities like Bamberg, Nuremberg, Augsburg have similar transit passes. You'll want to read this. It gives you a little bit more context about the beer gardens, and I've never had a bad time. The last time I was in Germany, I went with my brothers, and we were just walking down a road, and somebody freaked out that there were a group of about 12 people, and they ran to their car. They weren't in a hurry prior, but as we were walking, they ran to their car, jumped in, and hit a car on the way to get away, apparently, from us, even though we were just walking. And if you saw me in a dark alley, you would not be worried about being mugged by me. Let's just say that the camera adds quite a bit more weight. Anyway, I'm going to continue on. The next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. Are you being paid fairly? Young workers share salary information as pay transparency gains steam. Some 42% of Gen Z workers and 40% of millennial employees have shared their salary information with a coworker or other professional contact. Bankrate found. This is an article that's over at CNBC. It's written by Michelle Fox. This has been an ongoing thing. I don't know what's going on with this. Anyway, this has been an ongoing discussion that I've been witnessing kind of across the board regarding salary. And it comes down to the establishments want you to stop talking about your salary, yet salary is the thing that motivates people, because in an at-will country, um, there's largely zero loyalty between the employer and employee. They don't care if you quit, and they'll go and hire somebody else, and it depends on the domain, and how much they respect you as a human being. But I keep hearing about employers saying you're not allowed to talk about your salary, which is actually illegal in the United States. You can talk about your salary as much as you want to, and any reaction, any policy enactment that tries to stifle conversation is a violation. And NLRB can be notified of this, and it just can make the workplace a little bit like a living hell. So be warned, employers. You're on the wrong side of history in this. Although it seems like times are possibly changing. We'll see. The poll was conducted by YouGov PLC, February 16th through 18th, among 2,449 adults, and of those, 1,416 were either employed or looking for work. Younger workers are really rewriting the script here, says analyst Sarah Foster. Just talking about it, a tool in the war for talent, as millions of Americans walk away from their jobs in the era of the Great Resignation, also known as the Great Reshuffle. Being transparent about compensation may help companies attract and retain talent. If history has ever been an indicator, which usually it is, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. I know somebody that got direct hired because they were friends with the person that was the direct hire. And I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but that shouldn't be how it works in any location. It should be based on your knowledge, skills, and abilities, your ability to fit with the team, your ability to communicate. It shouldn't be who you know just because you're buddy with them outside of work. It says more about the person that's hiring than anything, and it harms the reputation of the company or organization. I'll drop that out there. Anyway, are you being paid fairly? Ask your workmate. You might be surprised. The next article is in the order of the bean. Welcome to the House of 30,000 Coffee Mugs. I'm just going to click this, and we're going to head over there so that you can see this. You can go over to sprudge.com and see the House of 30,000 Mugs. It's literally built out of, well, it's covered in 30,000 mugs. But you can go over there. There's also a video over on YouTube. But go over to sprudge.com. You'll like it. This is an article by Zach Cadwallader. The next article is in Hatch Ideas, revealed top U.S. corporations raising prices on Americans even as profits soar. As inflation shot to a new peak in March, cost increases exacted a deep toll on the economy, eating into most Americans' wages and further imperiling the financial vulnerability. But for many, I kind of ad-libbed that, or not ad-libbed, but I modified that statement, and further imperiling the financially vulnerable. But for many of the U.S.'s largest companies and their shareholders, it has been a very different story. And this is something that I've been talking about for weeks now. Profits are increasing, interest rates are increasing, prices are increasing, and the profit margins are not being the ones impacted. So we're looking at this what we're brushing up against is the price elasticity of demand. People will keep on purchasing, and the prices will increase until it actually starts impacting the overall bottom line of the corporation. Well, many people will suffer and phase out, having they'll take half of their lattes. I'm just using that because everybody else likes to lean on, well, just cut out lattes. Well, me having a single latte 5 days a week, even if it was $5, is $25. It's not going to impact the overall viability of my life. $25 a week. But raising the price for gas and me not being able to afford gas, even if I do cut out my lattes, at some point I cannot travel anymore. Then food on top of that, clothing on top of that. And that's just me getting to and from work and living as a human being. Add to that other things going up, other services, other products, everything associated with life, but my salary is not going up, and you end up screwing over everybody. And that's what's going on right now. Profits are surging, prices are surging, and the people that make it all possible, which is the working class, are the ones that are going to get punished. Meanwhile, the ones that could take and absorb this hit aren't. They're not lowering their profit margins or the rate of return on their investment. They're demanding more. They're demanding employees do more to keep that margin high, to keep the profits high. So this is an article over at The Guardian, and it's written by Tom Perkins, and it's titled, Top U.S. Corporations Raising Prices on Americans Even as Profits Soar. The Guardian analysis uncovers how companies enriched themselves and their investors while boasting about jacking up prices. I want you to go over and read this article. It will be fascinating and eye-opening to you. And even if you are on the same side or the opposite side, the context, understanding the whole picture really makes a difference. It says here, the analysis of Securities and Exchange Commission filings for 100 U.S. corporations found net profits up by a median 49%. My salary has not gone up even 10% of that. In fact, well, no, that's a little bit too much disclosure, I'd say. But let's just say that even a cost of living increase wasn't even close to 10%. And it's a shame, and I sacrifice to do my gig. So go over to The Guardian and read this article. Your eyes will be opened. The next article is over in Hatch Ideas as well. And Russia accused of blackmail after gas supplies to Poland and Bulgaria halted. I'm just going to go over to this article. I actually have a meeting that I need to go to, and I have to triage my day. So this is an article by Daniel Boffey in Brussels and Philip Alterman in Berlin. And it says EU hits out at move that Kremlin says is response to country's failure to pay in rubles. So what's going to end up happening is, I guess I'm going to have to log in again. Anyway, what's going to end up happening is there's only one line for natural gas, and it's coming through Russia. So either you switch to nuclear, or you lean on wind, I should say. You lean on hydro, you lean on geothermal, and you lean on solar. And that's the only way that you're going to get away from what amounts to the abuser. And, if you keep on enabling it because you isolated yourself into this corner, you painted yourself into a corner, and now this is the outcome of it. Because you can't just walk away from the bully if the bully is the one that is providing you a means of protection. And that's basically what it's been. The EU and countries surrounding Russia have been getting their resources from Russia, and eventually you know, Putin wants to put the band back together, so to speak, and make Russia great again. Sound familiar? So let's continue on. The next article is in Four Wheel Tech, new EV and old beater, which is better for the environment. It says Earth Day was April 22nd, and its usual message, take care of our planet, has been given added urgency by the challenges highlighted in the latest IPCC report. This year, Ars Technica is taking a look at the technologies we normally cover, from cars to chip making, and finding out what we can boost their sustainability and minimize the climate impact. You can always purchase carbon offsets so that your enterprise can feel better about its carbon footprint, which is kind of an equivocation solution, but any good is good, right? So this article over at arstechnica.com is written by Roberto Baldwin. And it says here, gone are the days of burning toxic gasoline. A new age of electrons and instant torque is upon us, you might say, standing next to your new vehicle and blue recycling bin. This is a quote that someone is stating, but it's not actually given a citation. So let's see here. Not all EPA testing is equal. For the model year 2022, there are top 5 most efficient vehicles for sale right now based on EPA's measurement of energy used per 100 miles. The Tesla Model 3, the Lucid Air Grand Touring, which I've never even heard of, the Chevy Bolt, the Hyundai Kona Electric, and the Tesla Model S. The Model 3 rear wheel drive is 25 kilowatt hours, and the Tesla Model S is 28. Interesting. The top 10 finishers were the Model Y, the Bolt EUV, Kia EV6, which I'm hearing a lot of good reviews about. The Hyundai Ioniq 5 is another one that people are really fascinated with, and the Kia Niro, which I don't recall seeing yet, but that's okay. They posted 30 kilowatt of energy usage per 100 miles. So the Tesla Model 3 rear wheel drive is the winner. But I will never own another rear wheel drive vehicle. Snow has taught me the pain and suffering of a pusher in the snow. So yeah, my Mustang took a beating. Not really. I ended up in snowbanks, but at any rate, go over to Ars Technica and read this article. It will describe in greater detail if you should respect the old beater or get a new EV. I got a few more articles. I'm going to kind of chug through these real quick. This next article is in the Warcrafters channel, and it's about the best mechanical keyboards in 2022. This really is just another reason for me to get on the soapbox. I love mechanical keyboards. I talk about them periodically here on the show, but I am a proponent of split keyboards, and I doubt that any of these are split keyboards. This is an article over at PCGamer.com, and it's written by Jacob Ridley. And I'm going to scroll down and see if they talk about any split keyboards. The Ducky is always popular. Let's see, still no split keyboard. Mountain Everest 60. I don't think I've seen this one. And what else is on here? That's it. So no split keyboards. I think the market needs to change. While I'm a fan of mechanical keyboards, the split keyboard is ergonomically sound. And if you can tent it so that it's at an angle, so that it's even less strain on your wrists, and the natural angle of things is like this, and not broken like that, so that you can type on a straight keyboard. After, I just say many years of using a keyboard, my wrists could use a break, and not the break that is required to type on a straight keyboard. So let's promote. Okay. So I'm going to continue on. The next article is in the Warcrafters channel. Oops. And it's if a 900 watt NVIDIA GeForce card appears in the next generation, the GPU industry has lost its head. Well, I'm just going to come out of the gate and say there will be ever increasing power consumption within GPUs until the efficiency of something like Apple's technology gets leveraged against it, making the devices smaller and more efficient and more on board and not broken out into various chips. You're not going to get efficiencies that are necessary. Couple that with the fact that there are really only two main things in a computer nowadays, both of which are starting to price out at the exact same level. You spend $1,500 on a CPU and motherboard and the case, and then another $1,500 on a GPU if you're going to be a power user. And you end up with the only way you can get gaming done is with a high-end GPU. So the price is going to continue, demand is going to continue. And if demand is continuing and no more efficiencies are found by reducing the footprint of the card, you are going to end up with more power being drawn because they've just not hit the requirement that says make your die more efficient by reducing the entire footprint, integrating everything more into the chip. The efficiencies that are coming from the M1 and later generations of the Apple M chip is because they've integrated everything into the chip. But right now, it's the PC world is very balkanized with various components that you can swap in and out, and that's the benefit. That said, until somebody at NVIDIA says it's time to start lowering the footprint, you're going to end up with greater power consumption. Okay, so, and that's a product of physics within electrical engineering. You make it bigger, it draws more power because you're doing more processing, and until it all gets smaller, shortening the distance and the amount of power needed to push all of this data, you will ultimately end up where we are right now with a video card that's almost as big as the case. This article is over at pcgamer.com, and it'll talk about can there be any justification for a gaming graphics card that consumes more power than most PCs? Not for me, but it's a matter of the efficiency of the design. So this is Dave James that wrote the article for PC Gamer. Follow the link. You'll be able to see more. The next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. This is about credit scores. Want a 720 credit score? There are 4 ways to improve yours. Your credit score is your metric that financial institutions and other lenders use to evaluate how responsible you are at throwing money around. And this is an article over at CNBC, and it's written by Magdalena Petrova. And there is a scale in the credit system. 850 is the max, 300 is the lowest. If you are anywhere under probably I'd say 720 or higher, then you should be working actively to try and resolve that problem, or you're going to be bowing out of anything reasonably priced in terms of loans qualifying for things. Even getting jobs in the finance market, when they run your credit report and see that you are way off from what they expect you to be, you may not even get the gig. So this article will end up talking to you about it. And it basically means paying off your debts and paying on time. And that's pretty much it. One of the biggest impactors is the age of your credit and how responsible you are at paying it off. If you can pay it off each month, then kudos. If you start carrying debt for month after month, then it kind of drags your credit score down. But I'm going to continue on. You can go over and check out that article. Oh, wait, you can't until I throw it into the show notes. So there you go. And the next article is the continuity report, and it is about Spotify. Spotify zooms to 422 million users in Q1, growing overall listeners amid Rogan controversy and loss of Russia subscribers. Spotify topped guidance for total monthly listeners for the first quarter of 2022, despite the loss of 1.5 million paid subscribers in Russia. That's a small amount considering the overall balance of their user base. So, and the Joe Rogan controversy amounts to name calling and stuff. And I don't listen to Rogan because I don't know, it's kind of like a train wreck. I mean, I just don't trust the statements that are made because it's really about just their opinion and belief, but that is not what science, that's not what wisdom and knowledge really are. This is just somebody saying, oh yeah, you can take whatever medication you want. No, it's not effective. Don't get the vaccine. No, vaccines are very effective. We are living longer and healthier because of science and education, not because of belief. Anyway, I won't get into it. This article is over at Variety, and it's written by Todd Spangler and Jem Aswad. And it says that it was updated after my aggregation. Spotify topped guidance for total monthly listeners in the first quarter of 2022, despite the loss of 1.5 million paid subscribers. The audio streamer's monthly average user base grew 19% in Q1. Why? Because people still don't want to go out. They just want to enjoy music. And they've been expanding their services. So go over and read that article. And the last article for today is about Elon Musk. Why? It was interesting because I was having a conversation about this team that is monitoring the jet that follows, or that is used for transiting Elon Musk around the world. This is in the Hatch Ideas channel, and it says Jack Sweeney, 19, runs a Twitter account which tracks the location of Elon Musk's private jet. The teen said he has backup accounts in case the page is taken down after Musk takes control of Twitter. Musk asked Sweeney last year to remove the Elon jet account, saying it was a security risk. And to me, abuse happens in the dark. So if you want free speech, this is part of it. BusinessInsider.com is the location of the article, and it's written by Kate Duffy. And I think that Mr. Sweeney, age 19, is probably going to run afoul of some policy about privacy, which isn't necessarily leveraged against everybody. So you know how everybody is equal, but some people are more equal. This will probably be, removed. Musk offered him $5,000 to remove his Elon Jet Twitter account. So I guess privacy for Elon Jet is $5,000 for a multi-billionaire. But then spend $44 billion leveraging what appears to be Tesla to acquire Twitter, to fight for freedom of speech. Even though freedom of speech is a control on government, not on private industry, not on persons. The whole thing about freedom of speech is so that you can speak your mind against the government and the government can't disappear you. That is what the control is. It isn't on me saying that I think that you're dense and I'm going to ignore you or I'm going to marginalize you on my platform. A business has the ability to refuse service to anyone. And short of it being based on protected classes of people, they can kick you from a service every day of the week. And it's up to their own policy and procedures. And now that Musk owns Twitter, you can have all kinds of private policy and procedure because there are limited stakeholders now publicly going to be discussing the internal machinations of Twitter. And that's the problem with privately held companies. And I can't count how many businesses have historically been acquired by a holding company or something else only to completely disrupt the way that the business has been operating in the past, or stall it out and then just soak profits from it. There's a whole lot of machinations that go on behind closed doors when a company goes private, and it's not necessarily with the best of intentions. This being a massive clearinghouse of formerly, I'd say, free speech, wherein the only thing that really was controlled was out and out lies and manipulations. The same kind of stuff happens with Facebook. 700,000 customers of Facebook had their streams modified to see what happens when you get negative or positive news. That was an experiment that was done on the population of Facebook. Who knows what's going to happen with Twitter? But if you are doing anything on Twitter, just know that even before Elon Musk purchased it, DMs and other information was not encrypted. It wasn't private. Just like email is not encrypted, it isn't private. You send email, it can be read by everybody in the sequence of hops from one server to another. And all of it is behind closed doors. So you better, if you are bound in Twitter, you better have a backup plan, because who knows what's going to happen. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Other changes that have taken place, PayPal became bigger and more powerful because it merged with X.com. And it wasn't named PayPal at the time, by the way. There was another company, it merged with X. X.com was Elon Musk's company. The same thing happened with Tesla. Elon Musk purchased basically into the executive suite of Tesla and changed the direction of Tesla. And SpaceX was born from Elon Musk's money, and it almost took out Tesla and SpaceX, except that it got a $1.4 billion infusion from NASA. And now we have this juggernaut of the richest person just going out and buying something. And I said several weeks ago that we're at the point where there are so many billionaires that have the ability to out and out purchase something, and leveraging their wealth, even as a loan, that you could be utilizing a business. And if you are a loud enough noisemaker, a billionaire can just purchase it and then do away with you for whatever reason, without even doing much. I mean, they can change the dynamic, and it's going to be an interesting time, with inflation and whatnot continuing to increase. More and more middle-class people are going to be marginalized. So we'll see what happens, if the deal will even actually get completely completed, because it still takes a vote. Okay, so with that in mind, I am done for the day, and I have to get out of here to a meeting. I'm already late. We go back to the front page of ohmTown, and I've been getting some duplicates, and it's becoming a problem, so I'll be investigating it and doing away with it. So, okay, there you go. Got some more news. Again, because of the timing, my aggregator always reaches out to Jewel Crafting and grabs articles. And there you have it. So I want to thank you very much for coming. I'll see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Bye-bye.